I'm Maura Ryan. I'm a principal senior lecturer in the Department of Sociology and affiliate faculty in Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. So this question about intimacy during the pandemic is a big one because people feel so isolated. And this is probably a problem in American culture where we've already been feeling isolated and the pandemic has worsened that feeling of isolation. And the thing that people kind of jump to is a concern about sexual relationships. When we hear intimate, we think of romantic relationships, sexual relationships, but actually all kinds of intimate relationships are suffering, maybe even especially friendships. So Amanda Mull in The Atlantic has recently written about how whole categories of friendship have kind of disappeared. And those are the more kind of looser friendships that we expect throughout our day, maybe interactions with baristas or a person we see at the gym that aren't as common. And this is actually what sociologists call weak ties, that part of how we feel normal and whole are all the little parts of our interactions with others. And so friendships have really suffered. And I think that's part of what we need to think about along with those sexual and romantic relationships, is that there's just this overall kind of sense of isolation. Around late March of 2020, there was like the greatest number of swipes on Tinder that had ever happened previously. And all dating sites have seen an increase in messages, and they've seen more conversation back and forth. And I think dating is one of those arenas where people are really innovative in thinking of how to do something there's not necessarily a script for. So creating video chats, creating virtual dates. People are going on multiple virtual dates in one evening. And some people are saying it even alleviates kind of some of that discomfort of who's going to pick up the check, especially some of those gendered kind of things are eliminated when you're just conversing with somebody one-on-one. And so there's this kind of different way of getting to know each other that I think as a sociologist, I'm sort of hopeful about. That for a while, dating apps were trending toward it's all about physicality, it's all about swiping on the photo, but now people are forced to maybe have deeper conversations with one another. And so kind of changing what dating is may come from this pandemic a little bit. You know, as sociologists, as social scientists, we're always interested in sort of the long-term changes. Like, what is this new kind of thing in society? What does it mean over the long haul? And when we're thinking about relationships, there's been a downturn in marriages in the United States, this kind of long-term decline in marriage since the 1980s. And I think that the sense of isolation for single people has really hit home in the pandemic. It makes a certain amount of sense that especially for urban singles, if you have this work life and this like vibrant friend culture and a vibrant dating culture, that the need for marriage wasn't really there as much. And I've even seen during the pandemic people talking about partnered people, people who live with their partners, as kind of privileged, that there's a kind of way of feeling systematically almost discriminated against as a single person. And I think that it could ignite an interest in more conventional kinds of relationships for that reason. But that doesn't mean that's necessarily right. It isn't to say that marriage is an inherent social good or it's inherently better than being single. But I think also, maybe just as likely, people will invest in other kinds of intimate relationships and recognize the importance of friendship, recognize kind of some of the fault lines of relying on romantic relationships as our most primary relationship, as our most important relationship.